Today's review is all about linear functions. So it's going to talk about slopes, it's going to talk about graphing lines and making equations in y equals mx plus b form. So let's start with slope. Just as a refresher, there are 4 different types of slopes that we work with. We've got positive slopes that go up from left to right. We've got negative slopes that go down from left to right. We have zero slopes, and then we have undefined slopes. So if I'm looking at this first one, that slope is just undefined. Okay, we don't have to solve anything. We don't have to count. It's up and down. It's undefined. But if you're looking at number 2, we want to figure out how far we're going up and over to get to my next point. So I'm going up 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So remember, my slope is rise over run. So I would have 2 over 7. And keep in mind, if we're going up and over, we're thinking if that's a positive line or a negative line, and that's a negative slope. So I'm going to make sure I put a negative in front of that 2 or the 7 to make sure that we know that that's a negative slope. Okay, do that same thing for 3 and 4. For 5 and 6, 7 and 8, we have that formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So label our points first. So I've got x1, y1, x2, y2. So I've got 16 minus negative 7. And then negative 2 minus negative 5. Again, because you're subtracting a negative, we're just going to change these to big plus signs. And then we're going to simplify over. So 16 plus 7 gets me a 23. And then negative 2 plus 5 gets me 3. So right here, we're going to look and see, does this simplify? And you could do that by typing it into Desmos. Oops, I typed in Desmos wrong. Here we go. So if we type it in, I can go 23 divided by 3. And we can click this thing here, and that fraction does not simplify. So that's just my final answer of 23 over 3. Okay, so you'll do that same thing with 6, 7, and 8. Okay, down here it's asking us to sketch the graph of the line. So if we're doing that, this is where we start. So start at 5. My slope is 3 halves, so up 3 over 2, or down 3 back 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and connect those points. Okay, so again, start at the second number. Your slope is what's in front of x. And then make sure you're going the right direction with positive and negative slopes. All right, for this one, I want you to skip 15. And let's look at 16. So for 16, this is where we cover and solve. So we want to find what x equals. We want to find what y equals. So if we want to find x, cover up y. And this gets us x equals negative 2. So that means on our x-axis, I'm going to negative 2. Okay, I'm also going to do that same thing, but this time cover up x, and y gets us negative 2. Okay, for some of those, you might have to solve. Okay, so you might have to divide by something. But then you just graph it on your axis, and then you're good. All right, down here it's saying, well, write the slope intercept form of the equation. So we can see this one's at negative 5. So slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So this tells us what b is. So b is negative 5. And now I want to find my slope. So here's a point, here's a point, here's a point. I'm going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So my slope here is just 1. So y equals 1x minus 5. Do that same thing for 18, 19, and 20. And then lastly down here, it's asking us to write the slope-intercept form of the equation that's given. So we're going to use point-slope form here. So y minus y1 equals m, x minus x1. So we're going to plug in my point and my slope. So for this one, it's saying it's parallel, meaning it's the same. So that means my slope, so m, is negative 2/3. My x value and my point is 3. And then I've got my y value is 1. but we're going to switch that sign because it's a negative one. All right, let's do that same thing for number 23, but this time it's perpendicular. So for perpendicular, you take this slope, you flip it, and you change the sign. So if we flip it, that makes 3 on top. It's a positive. We'll switch it to a negative. So for my x and y here, I've got y minus 1 equals negative 3, x minus 1. Okay, you can then distribute. So distribute that negative 3. And then we got to add that 1 over. So my final answer here is negative 3x plus 4. All right. So do the best you can on this. If you get stuck, ask somebody and then check your answers on the key.